how's it going? My name is Fede, and today I'm going to explain you how the funding rate arbitrage works and how you can start earning the yield with Hummingbot. So let's get started. I'm not going to enter in too much detail about how it's calculated, but I will give you a conceptual idea of why the funding rate exists in perpetual markets and how this value can be positive or negative depending on the market scenario that we are. The main difference between the traditional futures and the perpetual contracts is that the perpetual contracts don't have an expiration date. This means that if you don't get liquidated, you can hold a position forever. To make that the prices of the perpetual contracts converges to the spot prices, the crypto exchanges created this mechanism called funding rate. To understand the calculation, I recommend to check the documentation of the exchange that you are trading on, but usually you have a mark price, that is the current price where the asset is traded in the perpetual market, and you have an index price. This index price represents like the real price of the underlying asset and can be composed by multiple spot markets in different proportions. So the difference between the mark price and the index price will determine the funding rate. If the mark price is higher than the index price, the market will incentivize short holder. On the other hand, if the mark price is lower than the index price, the market will incentivize long holders. Conceptually, the strategy is very easy. If we get paid in one exchange for holding a long position and we get paid in another exchange for holding a short position of the same token, we are making money just like that. So that is what this strategy is trying to do. Obviously, that is not so simple. We have some things to do in the middle, like normalize the funding rates, because some exchanges pays you every 8 hours, others every hour, others are continuous. So that's one part of the job. The second part will be checking the price discrepancies at that moment of the exchanges that you are trading the position, because probably the trade P&L and transaction costs are much more higher than the yield that you are going to get. Those are like the two main things. And then we need to control the positions and see which is the best path. Obviously, that we can also find paths where we don't get paid and we have to pay. For example, let's say that we get paid $1 every day in Hyperliquid, but we have to pay $0.3 in Binance. We still make a difference. In this case, we are not getting paid in the two exchanges, but we have to make sure that the difference of what we get and what we pay is bigger than the one that we are expecting. Now here I am in Binance. As you can see here, we have the funding and the countdown. This is when the funding will occur. As you can see, if you press or put the mouse on top of this, you will see that the explanation of the funding payment. And what you need to know from here is that if the funding is positive, the long pays short. So if the funding rate is positive, we would like to short, so we get paid. If the funding rate is negative, we would like to go long. So Hyperliquid has this amazing page that they created, funding comparison, where you can find normalized, as you can see here, the rates for Hyperliquid, for Binance, and for Bybit. So in this case, let's say that here I put some favorites, but what you can do is to go here and sort by the highest opportunities that you are seeing. So in this case, we are seeing NEO 0.29% today and OP 0.17. So let's say that we like these two. And for the other side, we would like to have this FTN, let's say, and TON. So these are the four markets that we like. So let's analyze this a little bit. As we mentioned, if it's positive, the short gets paid. So in this case, in Hyperliquid, we are going to get paid 0.13 for going short here. And we need to pay in Binance 0.03. So as you can see, the difference between these two is this value. And here the Hoover says short coin on Hyperliquid and long on Binance. This is one scenario where we would like to short on Hyperliquid. Let's say one scenario where we would like to long in Hyperliquid is this one. As you can see, this is minus 0.15%. This means that the long will get paid 0.15% in a day, and the short position in Binance will need to pay 0.02. In this case, in the two cases, we need to pay, but as you can see, it's very good the rates that we are getting. So, well, this is like a brief explanation of this funding comparison. Now let's go to a more conceptual part, and then we can just go to the script and run it. So, as we mentioned, if the funding rate is greater than 0, the long pays the short. If it's lower than 0, the short pays long. So let's say that we have this table with Hyperliquid, Binance, and OKX. And let's analyze the scenarios for each token. In this case, Hyperliquid, short gets paid this amount, long gets paid this amount, and short gets paid this amount in OKX. Which combination we would like to do? Well, here you have. We would like to go long Binance and receive this 0.5%, and go short in OKX and receive this 0.3%. Because it's the greater difference. In this case, the total yield that we're going to get is going to be 0.8, right? Well, the second example for Ethereum, here in long we receive 0.5, in long we receive 0.1, in long we receive 0.3. So in this case, all the holders that are getting paid are the longs. So we need to find the one that is paying us more, that is Binance, 0.5, and the one that we pay less if we are holding a short position, in this case Hyperliquid. So as you can see, we're going to go Binance long and receive 0.5, and we are going short in Hyperliquid and we will need to pay 0.1. In the last one, this one for WorldCoin, in this case we're going to get paid 0.4 to go long here, we receive 0.2 here, and we receive 0.1 for going short in OKX. So in this case, the best path is go long on Hyperliquid and receive the 0.2, 0.4, and short on OKX and receive 0.1. This exercise will let you understand, once you see funding rates, where is the opportunity and in which side, like for example, where do you need to go long and where do you need to go short. So let's continue with the steps. The first one is to find the most profitable combination. Remember that beforehand we need to normalize to see all the fundings in the same time frame. In the script that I created, I did it like in a daily basis, and then you need to compare that difference with the mean profitability that you are looking for to enter into a position. For example, if the difference is telling you that you are going to make 0.1% a day, and your threshold to enter is only enter if the funding difference is greater than 0.2%, the bot is not going to trade until that difference is greater than the one that you are looking for. So that's step number 2. Check if the difference is greater than the mean profitability. An optional thing is to validate the trade P&L in this script, because you will need to have transaction cost and a price impact by going long and short in the exchanges. So that is something that the exchange has. If it's true, you will make only the trade when the trade P&L is positive. Trade P&L measures the price discrepancy between the two exchanges and the transaction costs. If all those checks passed, then we execute the long and the short. We collect the funding payments, and we are using executors. Hummingbot has a module that is executors that abstracts the trading logic for the user, and they have some common metrics like trade P&L, in quotes, in percentage, and so. So what we are going to do once the long and short executors are created, we're going to collect the payments related to those markets and add that to a total calculation that we contemplate the P&L of the current executors and the funding payments that we receive and the funding payments that we did. So that's the number 5. Then the question is how we close the positions. Well, there is another parameter that is set in the configuration, that is the minimum P&L to take profit. As you know, we are going to be collecting these payments and the executor's P&L, and that will give us a result of which is the current P&L of my whole activity on this market. Once you define the mean P&L to take profit, that is going to be, for example, let's say 1%. It's like saying, okay, I would like to do this arbitrage and get 1% from it. When the value gets higher than that 1% of the P&L, automatically we close the positions and we take the profits. This also can be changed and you can stay forever in the position if you are going to still receiving money, but well, it's up to you. And the other way that I didn't write here is that the rates goes to the other side. So for example, if you get paid for going short and you get paid for going long, and you are holding a short and a long, and then that scenario turns, so the short now is paying and the long is paying, you are going to start losing money all the time. If that happens and that profitability goes below your stop loss profitability threshold, the bot will also close the two positions and assume the loss. So that's a high level how the strategy works. Obviously that you can improve it. This is more like a demonstration, more like educational of how this strategy can work. If you ask me professionally how I will do this, is instead of going market with the long and the short position, I will pick which are the markets that are interested, which is a side that is interesting for each exchange, and I will start quoting with limit orders, trying to capture the spread between the two markets and plus capturing the funding rates from the two sides. So that's all about like the conceptual idea of the strategy. Now it's time to run the bot. If you are not familiar with Hummingbot, I recommend you to go to hummingbot.org to the documentation section and you can see the installation methods that you have. So in this case, let's go to the terminal. I already have the environment created and all the stuff. Actually, I'm working on a branch of a post that I did about a cross-exchange market making. You can check it out too. So here we put the password and we are going to create the configuration for our strategy. So the first thing will be run create script config funding rate arb. This is the script that we are going to run. And as you can see, we are asking for the leverage 20, the mean funding rate profitability to enter in a position. This is the value that, for example, in this case is 0.1% in a daily basis. So here we are saying we are only going to enter in a long short if the funding diff between the two markets is greater than 0.1% in a day. Enter. So the connectors that we would like to trade, in this case Hyperliquid and Binance, and let's say that we also want OKX perpetual. We have 3 connectors, you can put as many as you want. One thing is, remember that you are going to have rate limits. Well, some processes, so this is just one instance, so make sure that you are not like doing a lot of overhead on the bot. Here says enter the tokens separated with commas. So if we go Hyperliquid, it says FTM, TON, and OP, and NEO. FTM, OP, NEO, and TON. Here says enter the position size for each token and exchange. This is like how much size we want to have for the positions. So if we put 100, will be $100 short and $100 long. The profitability to take profit, this includes the P&L of the positions, transaction cost, and the funding receipts. Here we are putting 1%. This means that when we get up to 1%, we are going to take profit. And the difference rate to stop the positions. This seems like if the position gets, like the arbitrage gets negative, we are going to stop doing that. So well, and the last thing will be if the position, we are looking for positive trade profitability to enter, in this case it's false. If we put true, let's start with a true, we are only going to enter in the positions if the current rate is positive. So I'm doing this just to don't trade, but well, once we run that, we are going to have this conf funding rate arb created. If I go here to PyCharm, you can see that now this config is created. We have the connectors and the tokens. It's easier to edit from here. If you want to do it again, I recommend to copy and paste the YAML and edit it. So let me remove this to false for the profitability and increase the mean funding rate so we can analyze the information before we trade. Let's put that we are only going to enter if we are getting a yield of 0.5% a day. that is actually greater than all these values that we have here, so we shouldn't enter in a position. So if we want to run it, we can run start script funding rate arb script conf and the configuration that we just created. This process is going to become simpler once we have the dashboard that we are working on. So if we run status live, you will see that we have this information. So we have mean funding rate profitability. We are looking for 0.5%. This thing about the balance, don't worry. These are like warnings because the bot was more designed for spot. We are working on improving this thing, but don't worry. Profitability to take profit is 1%. And we have the funding rate info for each token and each exchange. So as you can see, we have Hyperliquid rate. This is how much we are getting for each token. And here it says in days, so you can know that this is all in days. We have the same for Binance and the same for OKX. So as you can see, this shows like which are the current funding info for each exchange, but we would like to check which is the best path. So the second table shows for each token which is the best path. As you can see, all the best paths are between Hyperliquid and something in this case. So as you can see, for OP we have Hyperliquid Binance and their rate difference is 0.11% in a day, 0.17% for NEO, 0.08% for FTM, and 0.03% for TON. So this is what we just learned about how to do the calculations between different fundings. Here, as you can see, also we have this trade profitability in percentage column. This makes like the difference between the prices, the resulting prices of going long and short that we are going to have of each exchange, plus the transaction cost. So I call it trade profitability because it involves like all the trading activity that you need to do in order to keep those positions up and running. So as you can see, for FTM seems that we have a very small but positive, where now is negative, but very small but positive profitability. And for the other ones, there are someone that we are going to lose 0.12% or 0.13% if we enter in the trade just right now. I think this metric is really important because if you are losing, for example, for trade profitability 0.3% and you are going to expect 0.05% per day, is that you will need to hold the position for 1 week. The rates don't have to change in order to recover all the things that you did to enter in the position. So it's something to really review, and that's why I suggest to further improve this strategy to use limit orders to quote from the two sides and start building a position over time. Then here we have days to trade profitability. I think that this indicator is interesting because it shows how many days you need to get the funding rate difference to cover the trade profitability. So here, as you can see, we need like 0.5 days, so less than 1 day, to recover this trade profitability initially. And well, in this case that is positive, you see that this is negative, is because the trade profitability is currently positive between these two pairs. And then here we have the days to take profit. Remember that we defined this profitability to take profit at 1%. So using the trade profitability and the best rate diff, how many days we need to hold the positions in order to get the 1% that we are looking for. This also is like very interesting because there is a lot of hype right now around like Ethena and all that stuff, and this shows you like really how much money you need to put to get those yields and how time you need to wait to recover with the same funding rate information to get that money back. I think that is a very good strategy, but it's not as simple as everyone is saying, like, hey, do funding rate and make rich yourself, because if you want to do it properly, I think that you need to take into account a lot of things. So well, this means that for NEO, probably is the best one, we need to wait like 6 days to recover, to make the 1% of yield. Actually, that is really good if this situation keeps going with the same rates, because making 1% in 6 or 7 days risk-free is something like really amazing. Another thing that I didn't mention, but you have to take into account, is that make sure that you have enough funding, enough margin, because if you are opening a position of $1,000 and you have $10 as margin, probably you are going to get liquidated before you get all these benefits. So make sure that you are not exposing, or your leverage is under control, because in one exchange you're going to lose money and the other exchange you're going to make money. So the problematic exchange is the one that you are going to lose money. So, well, that's something to consider. And then the last column shows how minutes are remaining to the funding one. Funding one means that the first exchange is this one, and how minutes we have to the funding two, that is the second exchange that we have. Now let's change the profitability to 0.12. Let's remove OKX because I think that I don't have balance there. I only have on Binance. And well, let's see if we can find an arbitrage opportunity greater than 0.12% a day. So here we just access the client again and we run start script, funding rates, configuration, funding rate R1, and status live. As you can see in Hyperliquid, we go to trade, and let's go to, I think the Neo will be the one that is going to be executed. But yeah, actually it started. As you can see, it started. In Neo we have a profitability of 0.16 that is greater than 0.12. That's why it started on that. And as you can see here, we have the two executors. This executor that is a buy and one that is a sell. We have the net P&L percentage for each, the cum fees in quote asset, and the filled amount that we have, and how much seconds this executor is up. If we go here, let's see, here says no positions. Well, let me connect the wallet. This is like a test wallet that I have for Hyperliquid. Okay, here we have this position with 0.16 USD profit. As you can see, is this value, the one that we are seeing here. And in Binance, we should have this long position with this P&L. So as you can see at the end, we have here like a bucket that says token Neo. This is like the active arbitrage that we have. Says long connector, Binance perpetual. This is the long that we have here. Short connector, Hyperliquid perpetual. The executor's ID that are related to this. And in this list, you're going to start seeing the funding payment object once it arrives. In this case, we're not going to see it because it's a lot of time. But well, if you check the PR, the QA team put some screenshots of this. Well, as you can see, we can also see the global P&L in quote asset. And so this is minus 0.03%. Remember that we didn't put the restriction of trade P&L positive to enter. Well, that's thanks for watching, and I hope that now you understand how the funding rate works and how you can take advantage of it. I'm waiting to see how you can improve this script and make some money. Bye bye.